Hi, this is Gary Kelley, and I'm joined by Siobhan Weber Costello, god-ish of Castinetti Real Estate. I'm a lowly agent there. What's this called? The Real Talk Podcast?
RealTalk Podcast. Actually, one of my kids was noting I was working on the cover art creative, and one of my 10-year-olds said, "Why is the R and the E capital in Real Talk?" So that stands for real estate.
No, I
That's
get
how
that.
tricky we are.
All right, so let's dive in. I want to ask your thoughts on something.
Okay.
This weekend was the first time, apparently, in 2 years, the area has had snow. I didn't realize that. I kind of, if it snows, I go and do my job. If it doesn't snow, I go and do my job. I'm kind of oblivious. But I guess it has been a couple of years since we've had a good snowstorm. And
True.
it made me think about, as I walked up to an open house Saturday. It was yesterday. I said to the other agent that was there, why aren't we having people come in through the garage? Instead of, going down the walkway, up the stairs, and, we have to clear all that. So it made me think about, what do we tell our sellers to do when it's wintertime, both on the inside and outside of the house?
That's a great question. So there's, I think, a couple parts to it. One is keeping the property clear, as you mentioned. So are the walkways shoveled? Are they salted? Are they passable? And that can be a challenge if sellers have already moved, right? Or the property's vacant, on which, circumstance I'll help contract with someone to get that taken care of. But safety first, and then sort of right up there, close second to safety is cleanliness for the seller's home, right? So that's a big concern, is if there's a snowstorm, of course, they want to, or, tremendous, rain or something, they want to show the home, but they don't want mud all through the home. They're trying to keep it clean so it's presentable. And that's where we kind of learn as we go. So in years past, we've recommended everyone wear the booties, right? So once you're inside the home and you make sure your walkways to the garage or whatever are clear, you can have people take off their shoes, in which case it's good to have a rubber mat or a towel or something down.
I'm not a booty fan.
Well, you shouldn't be, because we thought we were doing a great thing, and we had someone fall down the stairs because they were too slippery. And I have not,
I
used
have
them
heard
since.
you got to get the booties with the little rubber nubs on the bottom so that people don't fall.
Right. It was scary. I mean, and thankfully no one was harmed. But that's not something we want to have happen on our watch.
What I do is I go to Home Depot and I get a rubber mat, and maybe it's 10 feet long. It's kind of goofy looking, but it's long enough that when people come in, they can kind of clean off their shoes on the mat.
Nice.
And then, go through the house. Because I find that, the first thing when someone goes into a house, asking them to disrobe, take off their shoes. That a lot of people don't like that. And it's an immediate negative that I want to try to avoid in showing the home.
I agree with that, actually. And some unintended consequences, right? It starts well-meaning, but if people have limited mobility, for example, I've noticed that's a real concern. If there's not a chair by the door for them to sit and even address the shoe situation, then people are trying to look at the house and go upstairs, and people are sitting on the stairs to try to take off shoes, and it creates an uncomfortable situation for everyone. So I think there's work to be done on how to handle traffic flow all the way around from that perspective.
Yeah, I agree. From the outside perspective, keeping it clear and all that, I think is a must. And I will tell you, as a real estate agent, listen, I'm not adverse to going out and brushing off the steps if that's what has to be done during an open house. But don't ask me to plow the driveway.
Right.
If you're not living here and you say, can you get the driveway plowed? That's altogether different. But that's not something that I'm comfortable doing. Right.
And the seller shouldn't be comfortable with you doing it, right? That's not a liability kind of relationship that they want to form with you. And it's not in the terms of your contract. So, I think that everybody kind of has a role to play. And we know a lot of plow folks who are wonderful at what they do. And we would be happy to make that connection.
So when it comes to the inside of the house, I'm not a fan of having food and beverage in the house. If it's
That is sacrilege in the Castinetti world. Oh boy. Okay.
I wanted to talk about that.
Tell me more.
In the middle of summer, I'm more than comfortable having water that you hand out to someone. But
Oh,
I'm not
water. Oh,
comfortable. What's that?
water. You party animal.
Well, listen, I come at it from the standpoint of big corporate America. You don't do booze in
Oh,
someone else's house.
nope. Nope.
Here we are doing that. And,
Right.
it was muffins and mimosas. And I don't like having to clean up after that. And I don't like seeing little kids walking around with muffins and crumbs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's my personal perspective. It's not shared by the name of the owner of the business, the woman with the name on the door. She likes that. She thinks that's a unique value proposition.
And I will tell you, it's funny. There's arguments to be, like with many things, arguments to be had for both sides, and we're learning as we go, right? So you have enough, cookies dropped on the floor and crumbs and food wrappers left behind, and you get tired of cleaning that up. So that's certainly something to consider. But we also have people line up down our open houses down the street, usually, maybe not in a snowstorm, but typically, right? Because we're actually kind of known in the area for our open houses. Now, you may ask, does that really matter, right? Is that going to sell this house? What's the return on that, right? Well, I think one, it's just good for the community and good for morale. It's kind of fun. And that's a big part of what we do that's not directly business related. But also, 6 degrees of separation would tell you that the people who are interested and local and want to check out this home are likely to know someone who possibly knows someone in the market, right? And so by creating a buzz about the property, that's very, sorry about the dog, we're just going to charge right ahead. That's sort of like guerrilla marketing at its finest, both for our brand and for the seller's property. But it does come with some more heavy lifting. So we try to get creative with like the cookie holders, the little sleeves, right? So that they can kind of contain the crumbs, maybe, or self-package
I will
things.
tell you, and I will disclose this for the world: the boss does not know how to open a bottle of champagne without having it go everywhere.
Well, listen, she's a worker; she's not a drinker. So, that actually...
But I'm good at knowing where the paper towel is.
There you go. Teamwork makes the dream work, like we always love to say here at CRG. So you guys made it happen for sure.
So when it comes to talking to a seller, you say keep the place neat and tidy, make it so that there's a way for someone to come into the house. I like the idea if you're going to ask for booties that you have a place that you can put them on. That's certainly better than doing it on the stairs. Any other key points?
I think that's the biggest, honestly. And if you have pets, making sure that that they're picked up after, because I will say that the contrast with white snow and some of our furry friends, what they leave behind, can be not the kind of first impression that you want to make. So just make sure that everything from a curb appeal perspective stays nice and presentable.
We sold a house recently. Sue and I sold a house recently where, as part of the PNS, it specifically called out that the yard had to be cleaned up of poop.
Yeah.
Okay. And I will tell you that my sellers found that annoying. I was there for the walkthrough. I understood where the comment came from and was able to explain that. But it also turns out that when that buyer was selling their house, whoever was buying their house had that same clause. And so they thought it was a cool clause.
Got it. Okay. Well, I would say in a low inventory environment, buyers should be careful about being demanding about things that don't necessarily move the needle, right? Do you really love the house? Is that going to be the thing that stops you from buying it? But yeah, I mean, no one wants to pick up anyone else's filth, right? And so
I will tell you that if I walk into a house where there is a distinct pet odor, I'm going to specifically call out cat. Okay, if the house smells of cat urine, it's a huge, huge turnoff for me. I have a hard time kind of getting by that.
Yeah.
If there's a pile in the backyard, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
not a fatal mistake, but I've had houses where I had one house in particular where we were asked to sell it. I was asked to sell it by a friend. Went to the house. I was told I had to wear a mask. This was at the tail end of the first round of COVID stuff. And I got there and I'm like, why are we wearing a mask? Can't you smell it? And we ended up running ozone machine in there for days to get the odor out of it.
Man.
It was rough.
Yeah,
So
I
on
mean,
that happy note, Siobhan,
yeah.
I want to thank you for
Sure.
participating today.
Thank you for having
And
me.
look forward to having another conversation with you.
All right, likewise. Thank you so much.